Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to be reviewing the competitive keyword analysis tool in SEO Workflows. Really excited to demo this tool. It's definitely the most useful tool, in my opinion, to do scalable analysis to really understand the opportunity areas for a client website. It fundamentally is a gap analysis tool, but it takes things to an exponentially higher level than what you'll get out of something like the SEMRush native export when you go to like a SEMRush gap analysis or something like that. This tool does require you to use SEMrush datasets, so that is a requirement to actually use this tool at this time. That said, let's jump into it. First off, I'm going to show the scale that this could actually do things. So I'm going to come in here and I've downloaded a whole bunch of SEMrush files. I'm going to just pretend that Land's End is the client in this situation. These are just a bunch of random websites. But again, just gonna pretend they're the client for the sake of this demonstration. And then for the competitors, I'm going to choose everyone else. So the first thing that you could already see here is that you could put as many files as you need into this. So for example, you see this is at 50,000 rows, and that's because that's the max that an export can be from SEMrush for our account. It's different for different people. But if we wanted all of the rankings, we could, go through and get the first X amount, then the next X amount. It could really get the entire website's keyword universe in there. And same thing with the competitors, right? So we have, okay, we count how many rows at the bottom, and then 50,000 rows at the top. If we want to, we could come in here and we could just say Land's End, Moose, Columbia. This is going to exclude the branded keywords. Obviously, there's some variants in here that I'm going to be missing, but it'll get the bulk of them. And just because these websites are really large, let's use a volume exclusion. Let's say we don't care about anything that is less than 500 search volume. So I'll just go ahead and remove all that from the data set, just because these are very, very large websites. Most of the keyword targets they have are, like 10,000, 20,000 plus search volume. So come in here, we'll press submit. You'll see right here that the average time for a job is 5.2 seconds, but we just entered a lot of data into this, so this might take a little bit longer, maybe like 20, 30 seconds. We'll end up seeing what it ends up taking. And then we'll go through the output, and I'll show you some ways that you can go about analyzing the data very quickly to get an idea of what the opportunity areas are for a given website. While this is actually coming up, let me show one thing, which is, and you can actually just show you the data set that you actually have to get from SEMrush to ensure that's clear. And you can see the data set's finalizing right now, so it should be done in a second. But yeah, when you go into SEMrush, you want to go into organic research, you'll enter the domain you want at the top, and you just want the keyword or the organic keyword export. SEMrush has been ungodly slow ever since they went public. I swear it has to have something to do with that. So just this report, the analytics organic positions, you come down, you export the CSV from right here. And again, you do have to have a SEMrush account separate from this right here to use the tool, but the tool itself is actually free. Okay. This is all done. You'll note that the data is still in there because it doesn't clear this in case you want to make some adjustments and run it again, but we do have the downloaded file right here. Just as a quick FYI as well, if we hop back over here into the step-by-step instructions, you'll see that the link to the exact SEMrush URL that you need to get that data set is found right here as well. Okay, so we have our data set. Let's open that up. Give it a second to load. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to first go with the tabs that exist in here, give a brief explanation, then I'll go through a few ways that you can actually use this data in a very quick fashion to come up with opportunity groups and figure out where opportunity exists. So the first tab, you see it's called gaps. Come on. Sorry, this is going a little slow. I don't know why I can't see the tab names. Oh, well, I might just do it without reading the tab names. I kind of forget what they are off the top of my head, but this one is looking at page level gaps. So it shows the URL for the competitor, the top ranking page for the competitor, and it says what kind of overlap exists for the client. And the client is based on what you put into the actual interface, right? So for this example, I had Land's End on the top as the client, and then everyone else are competitors. It will automatically filter this to the top 10,000 competitive pages. And what we consider the top is based on the aggregate estimated traffic. And how we're actually calculating the aggregate estimated traffic is based on all of the top 20 keywords that exist for the page. So right here, again, we're looking at everything at the URL level. So this URL, each URL will only ever exist one single time within this view right here. Next up, we have the actual gap analysis view. So you see a keyword, search volume, the position for the competitor, position for the client, whether it's a top 20 keyword, the range for the keywords, so that's 1 to 3, 4 to 10, 11 to 20, and then 21 plus, I believe. The traffic that this keyword is driving, and that's how we're actually getting the page level traffic, right, is that we're aggregating all of the individual keywords for each page, the URL for the competitor, domain, host name, URL for the client. So it gives you kind of that gap analysis view at the keyword level in contrast to this, which is really looking at the URL level. And then we have this tab right here, which gives you some groupings. This one is less for kind of like deep dive analyses and more just to give you an idea of what kind of clusters exist. So what this is saying is that, for example, we have, here, let's use this one, row 15, air. It's saying there are 174 URLs on the dickssportinggoods.com domain that include air within the URL. The client has no overlapping keywords based on all of the keyword rankings or all the top 20 keyword rankings for these 174 URLs. There's 2,234 top 20 keywords out of those 174 URLs. They're driving this much estimated traffic, and there's this much search volume solely for those top 20 keywords, just because we don't really want to be aggregating search volume for something that's like position 80 that has no real impact on the page. So hopefully you can already start seeing how you can identify, clusters of opportunity. If we sort this by estimated traffic, you can actually see some areas where we do have overlapping keywords. We have, REI. So things with REI in the URL, there's 153 on rei.com. It does exclude the domain from that. So it's 153 URLs where it's in the URL path. And we have, 567 overlapping rankings out of the competitors' 1,290 top 20 rankings, and so on and so forth. So you can start again looking at groupings that exist that might indicate areas of opportunity. And then this right here will actually just tell you what are in those groups. So if you wanted to come in here and you were like, okay, I saw, I don't know, ice, and I want to know what those URLs are, come in, and it will show you all of the URLs. You will find that URLs exist in here more than once, right? Because if, for example, like this URL, oops, this one to advice just because I did contains ice. Sorry about that, but still same concept, right? But what I was saying is that this URL might have advice, it might have expert, learn, bicycle, or all words that exist in the URL. So it will show up however many times that's needed. Let's actually show that really quickly. So we could come in here and we can filter to this URL and we can see all of the groupings that it's currently being found in. Sorry, this got a little slow just because it's a rather large data set. Obviously, if you do it on a smaller data set, Excel goes a lot faster. Obviously, I'm also on a video right now, which isn't helping anything. So we got REI, ICE, expert, advice, learn, all words that are existing within this URL and all groupings that, that URL will be clustered into within this view. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. We have this view right here, which again, I'm not going to dig into anymore. I realize that a lot of people, when they think about gap analyses, usually fixate on this kind of view. My point of view is that this view actually matters a lot less when we're trying to understand opportunities. And what we really care about is this view right here that shows us the aggregates at the page level. Just because when you're thinking about opportunity, you're not thinking about like, oh, there's 50,000 keywords I could go after. In my opinion, that doesn't really matter. What really matters is how many pages do we need to build and how much traffic can we potentially drive based on building those pages. How that traffic does end up happening is based on keyword rankings, right? But really what it comes down to is the pages you need to build and what the resources are going to take and all those kind of things. So I'm going to show you how to use this data set really quickly. There's a lot of different use cases for it. I'm just going to go over the one I personally utilize the most. So I'll come in here and I'll put keyword overlap. And this says either exists or none. So what does exist mean? Exist means that we have a ranking in position 1 to 100 for at least one of the keywords that the competitor is ranking in a top 20 position. So let's come into here really quick and just look at one of the URLs. So you see exists. We see the number of overlapping. It's saying 1, meaning we only have 1 out of the competitor's 86 keywords that they're ranking for in top 20 that has overlap. But overlap does exist. So we do see exists. We see the percentage of overlap. So it's 1 to 10% of the competitor's keywords we currently have overlapping. And to be abundantly clear, just because we have this overlap doesn't actually mean we're ranking well. It just means that we are ranking in position 1 to 100 for at least one of the keywords. You could generally figure out like how well we're doing for the keyword based on the overlap range though. So if we're ranking for 50+% of the keywords that the page is ranking for, odds are that page that we have is pretty well aligned. If we're ranking for only 1 to 10% of the keywords that one of these pages are ranking for, odds are we don't have a very aligned page to combat that URL. That said, it's even more so when you think about the nones, right? If we have no overlap, then that almost immediately is an opportunity. So again, we could come in here. Let's use the overlapping range as well. So we could see that. We can see the count of each of these. We'll put URL competitors, so we get the URLs. And then what we'll do, and let me stop this annoying thing that happens with pivot tables from happening, where it likes to just change the size every time you change something. Autofit column lists and update. Do not do that, because it is very annoying. Let me close this. And then let's put number of top 20. Let's put traffic comp, search volume sum. And then let me actually rename these just so it's abundantly clear what we're looking at. Let's look at, this is really this is number of URLs. I know it's a count of overlapping range, but that's just because I put this right here and it's counting how many exist in each of these ranges, like 1 through 10, 11 to 20, 21 through 50. And as a reminder, that's the percentage of keywords our client is ranking for these competitor pages. And again, when you have the nones, you could be fairly confident we don't have a good page, right? So we have the number of URLs, the number of top 20 keywords, the traffic from top 20 keywords, and the, let's just call this MSV, monthly search volume from top 20 keywords. That's what we're actually looking at here, just to be abundantly clear. Let's clean this up a little bit more. And let's do this. Let's do this from Grisalis. And if we really want, we could put this keyword in here. To be abundantly clear though, this keyword is the quote unquote top keyword based on estimated traffic to the page. It's saying SEMRush is telling us that this treadmill keyword drives the most estimated traffic to this page. Does that necessarily mean it's the perfect keyword for a page we might build? Absolutely not. But it gives us a good idea very quickly without having to do any more work. So already here, I realize like you can't just now hand this to a client or hand it to a dev team to go make pages, but already here, we're saying almost all of these, if we do have product for these kind of keywords, meaning like if we do have bikes and if we do have dumbbells and if we do have treadmills, that's already an opportunity for a new page that we could be pretty confident is a true new opportunity because we don't have any overlap in top 100 ranking positions for any keyword that's ranking in top 20 for any of these pages. So again, these are almost immediate opportunities as long as mentioned that we actually have product to satisfy it, right? You don't want to go to a client and be like, oh yeah, let's make a treadmills page. And they respond being like, well, we don't sell treadmills, right? So you got to think about that. When you look at things that are 50 plus, the way you can think about this is we most likely have a good page matching these pages. Doesn't mean we're outranking the competitor, doesn't mean we can't improve those pages, but nothing that's in here is probably going to become a new page opportunity because we most likely already have a page that's very well aligned with this page. Same thing with the 21 through 50, but maybe a little less. Maybe the targeting isn't precise, and maybe we have some overlapping rankings, but maybe they're like on page 2. And then once I get to 1 through 10, usually it's like, okay, we don't really have an aligned page. And in reality, what's happening is that maybe you see like women's winter boots, and maybe we have a women's boots page that happened to just show up on the winter boots SERP or something like that. And that's why we only have 1 to 10% of overlapping rankings. But yeah, I've been rambling about this for a while. This is what I want to show you is that you can take this data set and very quickly start finding opportunities based on the kind of data it's showing you. Hopefully that all makes sense. There once again is a ton of different use cases for this data set. I'm just going over a few of the ones that I commonly use. And again, you could very, very quickly start getting an idea of where opportunity exists, what are new page opportunities, what are some clusters, if we go back to this area, what are some clusters of page types that we should be building that we maybe don't have currently, and so many more other possibilities using this one data set from this tool on SEO Workflows. So I think that is about it for this one. Hopefully everything makes sense. Of course, reach out to me if you have any questions. And yeah, thank you for the time.